The Golden Order didn't just hate certain people. It put it in writing. There's this tiny doll in Elden Ring called the Omen Bairn, and it has an inscription on it that says, "Please, don't hate me or curse me. Please." That's a memorial for the babies who didn't survive getting their horns cut off, because that's what the Golden Order did. If you were born with horns, you were born cursed, and the fix was surgery, excision of the horns as early as possible. Most of them didn't make it through. The dolls are what's left of them. That was for the common Omen-born. The royal ones got a different answer. No surgery for the royal Omen kids. They left the horns alone. Then they dropped them underground, alive beneath the capital, and told no one. And the dolls made to remember those kids, fashioned in secret, because even the grief was contraband. They didn't exile them, they redacted them. Same curse, same cell, two completely different breaks. Morgott and Mohg are twins, born Omen, born royal, and born into the same sentence. Shackled and buried beneath Leyndell while the city above them pretended they didn't exist. Same womb and same hatred, same declaration that their very nature was a disease. Mohg looked at all of that and said no. He didn't try to earn the Golden Order's approval. He went looking for something that would actually want him. He found an outer god called the Formless Mother, a being of blood and wounds, who embraced exactly what the Order called monstrous. Mohg built his own dynasty in the dark, on his own terms. Morgott looked at the same hatred and said they're right. He didn't fight it, he absorbed it. Took every ounce of contempt the Golden Order had for his kind and turned it inward until it became conviction. He became the system's most devoted enforcer. Not despite being its victim, because of it. One walked out and built a palace. Morgott locked the door behind him and called it duty. Morgott doesn't just serve the Golden Order. He speaks for it in its exact words against people it ranks above him. His opening line when you walk into that fight is, "Graceless tarnished, what is thy business with these thrones?" Sit with that for a second. Morgott is Omen. The Omen are, by definition, the people the Erdtree withholds its grace from. He is, in the Golden Order's own theology, the original graceless. And the first thing he does when he meets you, a tarnished who carries more grace than he ever will, is call you graceless. That's what internalized oppression actually looks like when it's complete. It's not just accepting the verdict against yourself. It's absorbing the language so deeply that you start wielding it as a weapon pointed outward before anyone can point it at you first. The shame doesn't disappear, it just finds a new target. Morgott's full title is Morgott, the Grace Given. The Golden Order named him that. So doesn't that undercut everything? No, it confirms it. He got the word, not the belonging, not the throne, not the acknowledgement, just the label. A title that says you've earned the name we use for people who aren't you. That's not grace. That's a leash dressed as a crown. And he accepted it, treasured it probably, as proof that he finally earned the name of something he was never allowed to be. Morgott's real name was a secret, so he invented another one. Margit, the Fell Omen, relentless enforcer, the thing standing between you and the Erdtree. He showed up at Stormveil Castle to block access to Godric, then turned up again at the capital outskirts, not as a boss, not in an arena, just a regular enemy NPC. The King of Leyndell, on foot, pretending to be nobody. But Margit isn't a person. He's a mask. Morgott is one of the first demigods, son of Godfrey, the first Elden Lord, and Queen Marika. That's the golden lineage, the bloodline, at the top of everything the Golden Order built. That name should mean everything here. It means nothing, because he had horns when he was born. So he can't invoke it. Can't stand in the light and claim the throne he's bleeding to protect. So he does it all in the dark. Commanded the Knights Cavalry, an entire enforcement network, all under a name he invented. And when you finally beat him at Stormveil, he says, "Cower in fear of the night. The hands of the Fell Omen shall brook thee no quarter." He's threatening you by referring to himself in the third person under an alias while using it. That's not a disguise anymore. He built Margit so completely that Margit became his own instrument of power, separate from the man underneath, the kingdom's most devoted defender. And he couldn't sign his own name to any of it. Morgott's weapon isn't a sword, it's a confession. The item description for Morgott's cursed sword says the accursed blood that Morgott recanted and sealed away reformed into the blade. Recanted isn't passive. It's not suppression. It's not survival. Recanting is a formal act, the kind of thing you do when you publicly disavow something. Morgott looked at his own blood, his own nature, and made an official declaration that it was heretical, and then it came back as a weapon. The Morgott fight has two phases. The weapons he uses in each one are the psychology-made mechanical. Phase 1, he fights you with golden incantations. Holy weapons summoned from the air, the Erdsteel dagger, the Tress spear, and the giant crusher. The full iconography of the Golden Order. That's Margit. That's the performance. That's the identity he built and maintained his entire life. Phase 2 hits when that isn't enough. The mask breaks. His blade infuses with cursed blood. The Omen flames erupt. Everything he recanted comes back, not because he chose it, but because he got pushed past what the Golden Order's tools could handle. He doesn't reach for his true nature. It surfaces, because it was always there. The fight is what happens when the burial fails. That's not a weapon. That's a penance. The Golden Order spent Morgott's entire life denying he existed. Then he died, and the evidence contradicted everything. When you defeat Morgott, he drops his great rune. The description just states two facts: that he was born of the golden lineage, and that he was the Lord of Leyndell. Not claimed to be, not believed himself to be, was. And it's not just any fragment. The description calls it the anchor ring that houses the base. Not a piece, the foundational ring, the structural center the other great runes extend from. The man they shackled underground and erased from public existence was carrying the base of the entire structure. He had the title. He always had it. He ruled. Morgott, the grace-given, Veiled Monarch, and Lord of Leyndell. The problem isn't that he was denied the title, it's that he could only wear it behind a veil, as someone who didn't officially exist. He had to die for the proof to surface. The foundation of the Elden Ring belonged to the Omen they buried beneath it. Morgott doesn't confess. He waits. We are all forsaken isn't a death cutscene. It doesn't play automatically. It only happens if you choose to walk up to his dying body and interact with him. If you leave after the fight, he says nothing. He holds it until someone comes close enough to hear it, and then, only then, lets it go. But before the confession, he says something else. He talks of the Erdtree, the thing he bled for, erased himself for, defended his entire life, and says, the Erdtree wards off all who deign approach. He's watching it happen in real time. The barrier seals itself shut. Not against him, against you. The grace carrying, guidance following tarnished, who just defeated him. The person the system was supposed to want. We are all forsaken. That pause isn't shock. It's recognition. He spent his entire life believing his forsaken state was personal, theological, about his Omen blood specifically. And then he watches the Erdtree seal itself against someone who did everything right. The we clicks into place. It was never just him. The system was forsaking everyone. He just couldn't see it until he watched it happen to someone else. Thy deeds shall be met with failure, just as I, first person, personal, equal. He spent the entire fight calling you graceless, and as he dies, he places himself and you in exactly the same category. The confession wasn't involuntary. It was waiting for the only moment when there was nothing left to perform for.